Hello, friends, and welcome to the second episode of the MovieBabble podcast. We appreciate everyone that listened to the first episode a few months back, and we apologize for not getting another episode out in a timely manner. We're kind of working through the bugs to see what we can do with this medium, and we're really excited to push forward, and we're positive that we're going to send more content out on a regular basis to you guys, but thank you everyone for staying patient with us. And as always, this episode is brought to you by our very own website. That's moviebabblereviews.com. We could use another sponsor. Come on, businesses out there. What are the ones that always sponsor podcasts? We could use a little MeUndies our way. I'm sure your products are really comfortable, really form-fitting. Or even Gillette. I need to shave. Yeah, come on, other sponsors. We're waiting for you. Just come on home. But anyway, there's a lot of content on the site. We've been putting a lot of content out recently. I have a bunch of reviews out myself. Equalizer 2 came out. I should have other reviews out for Mamma Mia. Here we go again. I'm going to have to sell my man card at the theater when I go to see that one. But I'm going to see it for you guys because I care. I really care. And then I'm going to have a review up for Unfriended Dark Web, which is about as stupid as that title. So, yeah, we're really excited to bring this second episode to you. Again, I am joined by Stephen Finlay in this one, and we had a spirited debate, I guess you'd call it that, about the current climate of Star Wars and what it is looking forward and what it entails. And I like to think that both me and Stephen have our reservations about what's going to be the future of Star Wars, but we hashed it out. We talked everything from the beginning when Disney first bought Star Wars to every film they've done so far, including an extensive discussion of The Last Jedi. So I guess that's your trigger warning. But we really enjoyed this conversation, and we hope that it brings some fun, topical, and even a little controversial pieces to your discussion of Star Wars. We think it was a worthy discussion to have, which is why we did it. So, yeah, without further ado, I'm going to kick it to myself and Steven. So, operator, cue the music. Alright, once again, I am here with Stephen Finlay. Stephen, how you doing, my man?
Doing good. We're ready for round two, themed Star Wars this time.
Yeah, no one berated us online or anything like that, so I guess we did decently, or no one listened. I don't know. Either way, we're still here. But yeah, I think we wanted to really go into Star Wars, because there's been a lot going on recently. I guess we had Solo, which happened, to say the least. And before that was The Last Jedi and all this other stuff. So I think we thought it'd be a really good idea to just go into what exactly Disney is doing with the property. So I guess the best way to start this is just to kind of talk about the beginning. So I guess, what was it, 2013 was when Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, 2015 came The Force Awakens. I don't know how you feel about this one, Steven, but I genuinely love The Force Awakens. I think there's a lot of critiques you can make about that movie. Like, I get it. The New Hope stuff is pretty obvious in there, but the new cast is just really, really fun. I just love their dynamics. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I'd actually agree. I really liked The Force Awakens. I mean, before that happened, wasn't it Disney bought it for $3 billion or $4 billion?
It was like, something like 5. I don't know, something really stupid.
Because it was such a big deal to see Star Wars back in the cinema again, and everybody flocked. I mean, it made $2 billion at the box office, but I really liked it, and I think it was partly because J.J. Abrams was behind it. Like, he was naturally able to kind of give a lot of mystery to it, like who was Snoke and who was Rey, really, who she was underneath. and what was Kylo Ren all about. I really liked it. I thought it was a really, it was just a new take on Star Wars, and it introduced some mystery. So I liked it.
Yeah,
I'd agree with you.
I think
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
I think it's the perfect way to soft reboot a franchise.
Yeah.
I think well, JJ obviously had some experience doing that with Star Trek. I still really love that 2009 Star Trek. I think
Yeah.
I think it's kind of been lost a little bit on us at this point, but
Yeah.
I really really love that movie. And yeah, I think The Force Awakens is kind of the same thing. I mean, after the prequels, I think you just needed to just do something to just kind of give Star Wars fans just like a little bit of hope, but like pat them on the back and say, "Don't worry, we got you. This isn't going to be the worst thing in the world." Um, so I just yeah it's probably one of the hardest jobs in movie history, I would think, just to like
Yeah.
make that a legitimate movie that people like. I think people have gone back on it a little bit, but I don't know. I still remember before I even started MovieBabble, and I was just a kid, and I went to the theater Friday morning for like a 10 o'clock showing. I got there about an hour early, and the only seats available in the theater were either the first row or in the handicap zone. So I was it was just amazing to just kind of see that. That was like probably the first movie experience. I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is a legitimate event. But then from there, oh, we got Rogue One, which I think people are pretty positive on, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I can see the backlash saying that Rogue One was a more kind of dull version of Star Wars, and I get the fact, because it was the first, like Rogue One was the first kind of peripheral movie that wasn't related to the episodic and numbered movies, and that kind of got people going. That kind of that's what got me excited about that movie, because it's like, holy shit, you got a Star Wars movie that doesn't actually, directly relate to what's going on in the timeline that we all know and love. And I know that there's graphic novels and books and obviously TV shows like the Clone Wars, and I wouldn't really be an expert in the lore of Star Wars.
Yeah, neither am I. I think that's probably important to say up front that we just kind of like these movies. We like the movies a lot, but we don't know much about the extra stuff, which I think people might get angry about. But oh well.
Yeah, just disclaimer. This is just ours.
Oh, and we're gonna spoil we're gonna spoil the shit out of these movies. So if you haven't seen these, tread lightly, or if you don't like spoilers, whatever. Or if you just like listening to us, yeah, keep going. But
Especially so.
yeah, really. But yeah, Rogue One I mean, its issues in production were well documented. They basically reshot like most of that movie, or at least just the ending. I know there's like a couple endings that popped online that were just really different from the one we got.
Yeah.
I kind of love. It's kind of a fanfic section, but I kind of love just Darth Vader just destroying everything in sight.
Yeah.
That hit me at the right age where I was just like, "Oh, this is so awesome! This is the coolest thing ever."
Like that was probably my favorite part of that movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, looking back on that movie, I don't really care much about the characters. They're kind of just cannon fodder, but I really love. I think Gareth Edwards is just a really cool director. Just the way he creates visuals. I think that's probably one of the nicest looking Star Wars movie. I just, but I think there's a lot to like in that movie, and then we got to what probably started all of this conversation to begin with, which is The Last Jedi.
Here we go.
A little bit divisive, to say the least. A little bit.
Yeah.
What did you think of that movie?
All right. So, and I know a lot of people out there absolutely detest that movie, but I went in and I actually saw it a little late. I didn't see it on the first day, which was weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw it in kind of an empty theater. But I actually, to be honest, when I saw the movie initially, I actually really enjoyed it. I have to be really honest.
Yeah, me too.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
But it was only after I sort of thought back on it and read more online about what was happening in the production, I kind of started to see all the kind of red flags and how the movie was sort of, how the likes of Kathleen Kennedy was sort of injecting all these identity politics and the whole SJW kind of angle on it. And I kind of, definitely, The Last Jedi left a sour taste in my mouth, although I did actually really enjoy the movie, which is kind of a weird thing to say.
Yeah, there's a lot in that movie that I really, really like. Well, first of all, they just gave the most coveted franchise to just one guy, Ryan Johnson, said, "Hey, do what you want," which I think was really, really interesting. There's just like a weird like meta thing going on in that movie where it's just kind of commenting on the movie itself and Star Wars in general. Just with like Kylo Ren saying like, forget the past, kill it if you can. Ryan Johnson clearly didn't want to like be hamstrung by the rest of the series and wanted to do his own thing, which I mean, in some ways it's really cool because I think there's some really cool stuff in that movie. But then there's also just like it could have been reined in a little bit. I didn't need the save the animals side plot, or didn't need Canto Bite really much at all. There's definitely a lot of fat in that movie I would trim off. And yeah, I think it's really I still think it's an interesting movie. I can't remember what I graded it when I first reviewed it. I think I gave it like a B+ or something like that, and I think I would still give it that grade. I think it's really interesting to go back and hear what people really hate about that movie and how it treated Luke Skywalker and go ahead.
That's the thing about like when you go back and you look at all these interviews with Mark Hamill, it's so obvious that he did not like that script when he first read it because his hands are kind of tied with Disney. He's always sort of given these half answers, and it's like, he wasn't happy about where the character was going because Luke Skywalker's like in the lore, he's one of the most powerful Jedi. He's Darth Vader's son, and then they kind of reduce him to this kind of grumpy old curmudgeon that didn't really have much of a purpose. And even his spoiler alert, even his death kind of didn't really hit a lot of people. I read that didn't really fulfill a lot of people's, their vision of what his return would be like. And even when he started the kind of end scene with Kylo Ren when he's about to fight him, they have that kind of non-fight. I thought it was a cool twist. Like little things like that kind of do subvert the Star Wars universe. But what happens when it happens to such beloved characters, it does become a bit toxic with fans. Like James Mangold, like he was saying that James Mangold, he directed Logan, and he was apparently attached to some of the Star Wars, the future Star Wars movies. He said that making a Star Wars movie nowadays isn't like making a sequel to a normal franchise. It's like making a sequel to the Bible. Which I understand that.
It's so
religion.
Yeah, it's so accurate. I honestly I didn't mind the Luke stuff in The Last Jedi. Maybe that's me kind of just being like a fan of the movies, but I kind of felt like it was a logical step for his character after what he's been through, kind of. So if he basically just started created the teeth of the First Order with failing to teach Kylo Ren and all that, I think it makes sense. I think from a writing perspective to put him in that place, just kind of being like a depressed loner who drinks weird green milk out of sea monsters. But
that was weird.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of like the weird stuff like that in Star Wars, like where the little creature pops up and it just makes like a weird noise and then it disappears. Like it's kind of fun, but
it's cute. It's very cute. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't need him milking the teat of a weird space monster. But I guess that's neither here nor there. But I don't know. I think Luke is. I think there's a little bit of revisionist history going on with Luke. I mean, he wasn't. He's obviously the most powerful Jedi and one of the coolest characters ever. But I feel like there's a weird. It's kind of like Michael Jordan with basketball. Like everyone just remembers the greatest hits, and people probably hate me already, but I don't know. I feel like that was a logical choice for that character.
No, I know what you're saying. I agree with you as well. Like, because I know Joseph. I remember Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually really defended the movie on Twitter. He was saying that, and I have to agree with him. It's like, just what you're saying. Luke Skywalker, he might be the same character, but he's not of the same mindset. He's developed, and not all. If you're going to be realistic with the narrative, every character becomes like every character is grey. No character is black and white.
Exactly.
And that's what I liked about Skywalker's Mark Hamill's character, was because he wasn't what I expected, which what I meant when I mentioned about subverting the whole kind of Star Wars lore, which you weren't really expecting it. Like when Rey gives him the lightsaber at the end of The Force Awakens, and then at the start of The Last Jedi, he throws it over his shoulder. It's like, whoa, it's not. This isn't Luke Skywalker. This isn't the one I knew and loved. But I know what you're saying. It's a logical kind of progression for his character, and a lot of people, again, like a religion, not all the people are going to be happy with that.
Yeah, I didn't love that that lightsaber moment. I think that was a little too tongue in cheek for me. But yeah, like absolutely, I think that's one of these things. Like it really is like, I don't want to say a cult because that's just mean, and there's a lot of Star Wars fans that are they just love the character. They just love the characters, and a cult, that's just way too strong a word. But there's definitely just like a really hard following of these characters, and it's almost like because Luke has been in geek fandom for years now, since the 80s and the 70s, and they've seen this character grow up and then disappear, and now he's back, and they want to see him do all this really cool things, and the movie didn't give him that. And I think The Last Jedi it's a little frustrating in that way. Like, it doesn't give you the answers that you're looking for, and I think that's kind of like, there's a lot of wish fulfillment going into this new trilogy that people were hoping, and this movie just was like, you know what, we're not going to give that to you, and you're going to deal with it. And I think that really rubbed people the wrong way from the start.
Yeah.
I wonder if, given a few years, people might revisit The Last Jedi and give it a little more credit. But
yeah, like, sorry, I think, like, I have a friend, Alex. I was talking to him 2 days ago, and he's a huge film head and film buff and filmmaker, and he has a completely different opinion to what most would say about The Last Jedi. Basically, that creatively it's actually a pretty decent movie, but in terms of fanship, it's not really. It doesn't make people happy, which it's just impossible to make everybody happy. Like maybe they should have gone a bit more traditional, but like this was the second film in the trilogy, so they had to kind of go the more Empire Strikes Back kind of journey, where it ended a bit, controversially. It didn't really end well. It wasn't all happy laughs and smiles the way the New Hope was, and at the Return of the Jedi. So you can kind of get from that angle where it kind of, Rian Johnson did try and do things a little differently, and that's why I personally enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like there was a lot of outcry after The Force Awakens for something different, and that was kind of like the big critique coming out of that movie. It's like, all right, like you basically gave us A New Hope, like we want something different, and then they got something different, and they didn't like what they got. So if I'm Disney, I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck are we supposed to do right now? Like we tried all this stuff, and now we're getting killed for it. I don't envy anyone at Disney who works with Star Wars. Like Kathleen Kennedy might have the toughest job in entertainment. It's so hard to, like, because you even see with there's outcries for Marvel and DC and all those, but none of them have ever gone to the level of what Star Wars has been through the past year, or well, I guess six-ish months since The Last Jedi. It's kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah. Like I mean, when you compare it to Marvel, it's like Marvel is a little different because, like, I know Star Wars kind of started off in the 70s with George Lucas, but then after that it was kind of like when Marvel came out, they have a kind of precedent anyway with the comics, so they have this path already geared out towards where they want to go. But with Star Wars, it's a little bit watery. We don't really know what the best kind of narratives are to kind of introduce. And like my biggest problem with Solo, I know we're still talking about The Last Jedi, but my biggest problem with Solo was that they're trying to set up things that are pretty much already kind of set up.
Yeah.
And when we see these stories happening, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
We know why they're kind of pumping all this money in. Why what the hell are Disney thinking?
Yeah. So we can jump to Solo. I think that's fine. Yeah, Solo was just kind of like a nothing movie to me. It just didn't feel consequential at all. Like I just kind of watched it and then I forgot about it a day later. I was talking to my brother who really, really loves Star Wars, and like I talked to him a week later. I was like, I don't remember much about Solo already. It's just I can't. It's not bad. I think we live in a time where everything's either the best or the worst thing ever. But it just doesn't have that personality that you would want out of that type of movie. I think Ron Howard. I just think is a little. Given the bind they were in, Phil Lord and Chris Miller exit. They're apparently pretty bad on set with listening to directions, so they just need someone to just kind of fill in the gaps and get this thing right. But it just felt like the wrong choice, kind of, because he's just too earnest as a director.
Yeah.
And he just, like, there needed to be some weird, zany stuff in this movie. And I
agree with you there.
I kind of felt like Lord and Miller would have brought that. I mean, who knows? They could have been a disaster in a completely different way. But they would have. I think they would have at least created some really just bizarre and silly, like, just set pieces, and they might have even joked at how inconsequential the movie was to begin with, because that's kind of what they did with Jump Street and Lego movies. Like, they're going all in with, like, we know this is a little ridiculous, but you're gonna like it anyway because it's well made. And
I was literally about to say the same thing. Like, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. They're guys that could have been a little bit more cheeky with that movie. Like I felt as if Ron Howard kind of played it a little safe in making a kind of. It was just too dull. I think he was the wrong guy for that movie. I mean, like, and not to say that I don't like Ron Howard. I love, like, somebody like that movie Rush. I love that movie.
Oh, Rush is really, really good.
Yeah, like he can make great stuff, but it's like Solo, because Han Solo is the type of character where he is this kind of rebellious bad boy, and they needed irreverent directors to kind of put that kind of tone into the film. And I actually liked Alden. How do you say his name?
Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really liked him in the movie.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he was fine.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I thought he was fine. Like, with what they gave him to do, I just thought he played the part. You're never going to be Pete Harrison Ford. That's literally impossible. But yeah, he was fine, and I've really liked him as an actor in the past. I'm one of the few people that actually likes Hail Caesar and the Coen Brothers movie that he was in, and I think he was the best part of that movie. It was just, yeah, you just needed something. You needed something, a little extra oomph or something like that to get that movie going. And I wonder if part of that was because of the backlash to The Last Jedi. I mean, I knew they were already far into production, but they must have, after the initial outcry of that movie, which came out in December, by that point, Han Solo was heavily in reshoots to work with Ron Howard and basically fix that entire movie. So you have to wonder if they filmed that movie with that in mind, of trying to just like, all right, we tried this weird thing, then let's just go back to the hits. Let's make this movie, and everyone will enjoy it, and we won't have to deal with any crazy backlash this time around. But
which is the same. They're finding themselves in the same situation with Episode 9 now, because that sequel is kind of doomed now, because that's already kind of in production now, so they don't really have a lot of wiggle room to kind of change things. They're in a similar position now to the way Justice League was after, say, Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Because after Batman vs Superman, the backlash was crazy. People hated it. They were like, it's too dark, too gritty, doesn't make sense. And then I know Zack Snyder was all, he had a tragedy in the family, and then they put Joss Whedon on the project, and it just kind of became this weird mess, this amalgamation of two creative directions kind of going into one car crash. That's what I kind of predict. If I had to kind of predict what Episode 9 would be like, I think it actually, unless, I don't know how they can fix the problem, but unless they kind of give the reins to JJ again, which I think they're actually doing. It says on IMDb that he's kind of back in the directorial seat, but he was offered Kathleen Kennedy's job, and obviously he refused to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe if they are going to go forward with it, they need to kind of put someone in charge, which is the problem, because nobody wants to be in charge of this. It's a career disaster, or at least the risk is too great for a big director.
Yeah, I'm actually, with Episode 9, I'm a little, like, I'm cautiously optimistic, because, I don't know, did you see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom?
No.
I am, after that movie, I am very skeptical of Colin Trevorrow as a writer, and apparently that was the issue with Episode 9 when he was on board. Him and Disney just couldn't figure out a script that worked.
Yeah,
and
he's out now, though, isn't he? He's gone.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of why I kind of feel okay with JJ again, because I hate to say it, but Jurassic World was a mess from a screenwriting perspective.
Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, and it was and coming off of the heels of the Book of Henry last year, which I still haven't seen, but apparently people despise that movie, for the Trevorrow's last movie. So, but it's just one of those things. I think heading back to the Last Jedi and the controversy that came from it, it's just so hard, I think, to make a movie that pleases Star Wars fans these days. And I want to say, it's like, you can like whatever you want, like whatever movie you want. I don't really care. I like, you can like whatever things you want. You can like Transformers. You can hate Citizen Kane. Like, I don't care. Like, if it's good for you, good for you. Like, that's awesome. That's great for you. I hope you have a lot of fun. But
it's such a pity that people don't think like that when it comes to huge franchise.
Yeah, and that's where all this backlash is coming into problems, because now you have, I guess, switching gears here, you have Kelly Marie Tran, who was just basically just bullied off of social media by people after the movie because they were making fun of her looks, her acting, her Asian ethnicity. It was just, it's starting to cross the line, like, even, I mean, this isn't new to Star Wars. Like, with the prequels, you had people killing Jake Lloyd for his performance in the first movie. You had Ahmad Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, who he said after the prequels did to him, he basically was suicidal for a while. And yeah, like, it's not new to Star Wars, the reaction, but it's with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram now, it's becoming more and more accessible and noticeable and even lethal, which really scares me. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but I'm just I think that's the biggest reason why no one wants to do one of these movies anymore because it's just I don't want to have to deal with people on Twitter.
Like there's so much more collateral damage with these movies, and you said it there as well. It is because of social media, because that didn't happen back in the 70s or the 80s. You could look at the character, the actress who played Rose in The Last Jedi, Kelly Marie Tran. I mean, she actually deleted her whole Instagram account because it was actually getting that bad. But the kind of notion here is that this whole kind of toxic backlash is kind of making the whole situation more polarizing, because, you know, if the kind of notion is that if you really love The Last Jedi, well then, you know, apparently you're a far left social justice warrior, and if you absolutely despise the movie, you know, you're probably looked at as an alt-right racist,
exactly.
Nazi, or I don't know. But that's the problem, that if you're going to criticize The Last Jedi, you might fall into one of those brackets, those kind of cringy brackets. But when I watched The Last Jedi, it wasn't that I had a problem with the whole, and it was very, very obvious that they were kind of pumping the whole kind of, you know, how do you say it, the whole SJW thing again, because although I did enjoy the movie, I did not, and I knew going in that it was a controversial movie. Right. So when I saw all these kind of elements kind of coming together, and, you know, Finn's romance with Rose, Princess Leia being commandered, and putting what's her name, Laura Dern's character, Vice Admiral Holdo, and then Paul Dameron's kind of decline, and kind of, he was just kind of this nobody in the movie that was a bit of a loose cannon, and then Luke Skywalker just a kind of nobody on a rock. So it's kind of like it is pushing the more feminine angle in The Last Jedi, where Kathleen Kennedy was saying that when Solo was coming out, this is more of a male-orientated movie. Obviously, you have Solo, you have Lando in that movie, so maybe the male audience will flock towards that. But it seems as though Solo is the type of character where only the older, I'd say more conservatively leaning kind of fans will be watching that. And then that just wasn't the case after The Last Jedi, because those people just didn't like where the whole thing was going, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, like, it was kind of, The Last Jedi was still, like, hugely successful. Like, it made like $1.6 billion, something like that. It was just, it's still a massive hit. But then, like, even, like, the cinema score for it was really high. It's like the opening day rating that comes out from, like, Nielsen and all those guys. It was like, I think it was the same exact grade from opening day audiences as The Force Awakens. So, like, it was fine for a while, and then this kind of just ugly underbelly kind of just reared its head, for lack of a better phrase there. And
let me just clarify that. Although I liked The Last Jedi, I'm not at all trying to advocate the abuse towards Kelly Marie Tran.
Oh, absolutely.
Not at all trying to advocate any racism, discriminatory. All I'm saying is that I think that if you're going to make a movie on that scale, you should try and kind of refrain from forcing politics down their throat. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, all I want to do is see a nice movie.
Oh, I totally agree there. I don't think it hit me as hard as it did you. I don't know, just didn't really notice it. But there's a lot of movies that are really pushing that angle recently. The one that comes to mind for me is the first Purge that just came out. Like, the Purge movies have never been subtle, like, ever, about what they're trying to do. And this movie, I think, was even stronger with that. It focused on how the first Purge was basically started in Staten Island, and it was with the new incredibly right-leaning fictional political party that's in the movie targeted these lower income minority neighborhoods to really spearhead the purge, and it's really going from that angle. And I think it's one thing. I mean, if you're going to do a movie that deals with political and social issues, like, please, like, by all means, go for it. But I do think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think anyone wants to get things shoved down their throat, which is where the issue comes in. And there's another movie that I just watched, Sorry to Bother You, that I really really love. And
I haven't seen that yet. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
I know we spoke about that in their last podcast, and I can't wait to see that.
and it's kind of the same. It talks about the same issues as the first Purge, where it's about minority groups from a lower income neighborhood trying to rise up and get the respect that they deserve. But it was just done in such a way that like it's really really it's earned, and it's incredibly fun and poignant. And I think that's the part that The Last Jedi missed. It just kind of said like, hey, here's social issues and cultural issues in this movie. Here it is. Look at it.
Yeah.
And then but it doesn't do much with it. And I think that's I don't know if I mean a lot of the issues around this movie are politically charged, so people just might not agree with what they have to say. But for me it's just like I kind of like to be entertained. I don't like when people are like forcing this down my throat, because it's understandable. Like, you have all art is political. There's definitely stuff in there for everything, but I think it's making it smart and actually having something to say that I think that The Last Jedi just didn't really hit the mark with.
Exactly. Like, I think if you're going to go that angle, you have to kind of go at it like Jordan Peele's Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're so kind of gung ho with the whole kind of political, social aspect that you just know it's going to hit. But when you kind of disguise these kind of political affiliations into a Star Wars movie, which is like the top three biggest franchises of all time, probably, you're playing with fire, because the audience is bigger, the fanship is bigger, and the criticism will be bigger. And that's the only problem I have with The Last Jedi, is that.
I mean, and that puts Star Wars in a weird position moving forward, because it's like, what do you do? So Solo really did not make money at the box office. Last time I checked, it was like it didn't even make $400 million worldwide. So
it made like 380 or something.
Yeah, and so math is hard, but so the budget was 250 million, I think, and then. So I think the rule of thumb is to make money on your movie, you have to make 2.5 times your production budget, just to kind of deal for marketing and advertising and all that stuff. So when I'm sure they did fine in merchandising, and Disney isn't going anyway anytime soon. But so if you do that, they would have had to have made about $625 million. Math is really hard, but I think that's right. So they would have had to make that type of money to kind of break even. And so if they didn't even make 400 million, like, they lost a lot of money on this movie. And
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and even if you do it conservatively, if you just needed to make, like, some people say it's 2 times your budget, so that's 500 million. You're still looking at over 100 million in loss at the box office, which is just crazy to think about. So it's just like, what do you? I really don't know. And then they went forward with, there was the whole thing with, they said, hey, we're gonna make a Boba Fett movie, which I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm not really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more excited for a Boba Fett movie over Solo, because Boba Fett is one of those characters who does kind of have this kind of niche fan following almost. He's a cooler character. He's more of a mysterious character. He's got different abilities. You know, I know Solo mainly shoots guns and stuff, but like this guy's a different kind of animal. He's a different beast, and that's what I mean when I say they should have left. I think they should have got the audience hooked on maybe a more lightsabery kind of kid-friendly movie like Obi-Wan, so that when they made Obi-Wan, like Marvel, we were already sort of we were already indoctrinated in this kind of story and this whole kind of expanding, extended narrative. Like, if you go back and you look at all the early Marvel movies, like Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk, imagine if they released. Now, this is just my kind of theory. I'm not really saying this has gospel now, but imagine if they released Black Panther back then. Do you think
Yeah.
it would have been half as successful
Yeah,
if it was before the likes of the Avengers?
yeah, I agree. I don't think so at all, really.
Yeah, and it's the same with Solo because it didn't really seem to. I know the Force Awakens made 2 billion, and then the Last Jedi made billions as well, and even Rogue One made 1 billion. So maybe I'm wrong in that regard, but with Solo, it's like Jesus, you could have maybe prolonged it or maybe written it differently, because obviously, and here's another kind of surprise with Solo when they introduced Darth Maul, that was such a kind of, I think that was a nod to kind of this is where the franchise is going, because he's now a villain again, because we're going to add Obi-Wan into it maybe, and maybe we're going to see Boba Fett be involved here, and I think that Solo was more of a kind of, it was a dark horse that they really pumped all the money in,
Yeah,
and it just, I think it was done completely wrong.
I agree. I think with moving forward, I just think they really need to. I mean, they had to shoot Solo twice, so I don't know what their budget would have been otherwise. But they just need to work on just smarter budgets for this movie. Like, I don't think like a Boba Fett movie should not be more than like 70 or 80 million to make. I
Yeah,
think like
I'd agree.
you need to just really strip it down. We're not asking for an indie movie, but you just need to like make it more ground level, less space stuff. Really, just kind of, just like a weird sort of just crime movie, kind of like what DC is doing with that Joker movie. I don't really
Yeah.
know. I don't really know where that's gonna go, but
The Joaquin Phoenix.
yeah, it seems it's kind of. I kind of like that template for some of these more niche characters, because that movie is budgeted at I think 55 million, and it's just
Yeah.
and it's going to be just a really interesting character study, or at least they're going to try to make it an interesting character study, which I think, I mean, Boba Fett's entirely different. He's an entirely different animal, but I think like something like that could really really work, where it's just kind of you're on maybe one planet the whole time, and you just kind of focus on like this just like this rival gang story or something like that. And I think that's what James Mangold was supposed to direct, and then he was like, "Nah, I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah, he was.
So I don't know. I really really don't know. Like, I feel so
No,
bad
you're right.
because it's just there's so many, like, we're probably just going to raise more questions than answers in this podcast, and it's just I really do not know where Star Wars goes from here. And honestly, from all like after dealing with all like the Last Jedi stuff, like I didn't really catch any flack online, but it was just like I don't want to deal with this. You know, like it's hard. It's really really hard.
I know. I felt blasphemous when I mentioned I liked The Last Jedi in my Blade Runner analysis on MovieBabble. I kind of did a kind of cursory kind of mention of The Last Jedi and how it subverts things and how it makes things a little bit more interesting, I suppose. But luckily, nobody caught on to that, so I was kind of happy there.
Yeah,
But
it's to the point where there's just so much animosity, and you kind of say like, oh, I like Star Wars in general, and then you're gonna get pushback from people saying like, oh, I don't know, like, oh, this you're wrong, and it's just I don't want to, just give me my weird indie movie that no one knows about, and I can just watch it in peace, you know?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, 2019 is going to be the year for Star Wars, make or break, because 2019 has come around. It's creeping up fast, and they got a lot planned in 2019, and not just the one movie. I mean, they obviously got Episode 9, but they have the two big Star Wars theme parks coming out on both coasts in America.
Yeah.
They have their own streaming service coming out, which could be. I was talking to a friend of mine, Alex. We could actually even get him on the podcast soon enough, because I don't know. He knows a lot about movie stuff, but I think that maybe a streaming service could be probably a scapegoat for some of these smaller stories, like maybe the Boba Fett thing, or Obi-Wan, or even something even more peripheral than that. They could maybe play it a bit more safe with their streaming services.
Yeah, wasn't Jon Favreau supposed to do like a TV series for their streaming service or something like that? I don't.
I don't know.
like well, that's the other thing. They've thrown out. They're kind of like DC at this point, where they've thrown out all of these different things. Like, oh, we're gonna get the Game of Thrones guys to write a trilogy in Star Wars, and we're gonna get Ryan Johnson to write a trilogy, and then we're gonna get Jon Favreau to do a TV show, and then we're gonna get this, and then they come out with a report later, like, oh, we're gonna after Solo, we're gonna put these on hold, but we might not put these on hold. And it's just it's really goes back to they just kind of I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing, you know.
Yeah,
it's
this is why they're having all these meetings at the minute with like Bob Iger is calling for all these meetings now, and they shoot most of these movies in Pinewood Studios in Britain. So what I'm trying to say is that. Look, basically, what you're saying, they're kind of knocking their heads against the wall. That they're too afraid to experiment now. It's gone down a route where they have to play things safe. They have no choice now but to play things safe. If they play it any more kind of off the wall or kind of risky, the chances are it's not going to work out. Like, look, what they're trying to do now is they're trying to listen to the fans, and that's exactly what DC did after Batman versus Superman. And look what happened. Now, I'm not saying DC is completely doomed. Wonder Woman was great, I thought.
Oh, same here. I love Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, because I wasn't expecting, and that's one thing I was wrong about. I thought Wonder Woman wasn't going to be good. I thought, oh my god, what are they doing making a Wonder Woman movie after Batman vs Superman?
Yeah, I agree.
I believe my word, I was completely wrong.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where they just kind of got away. Like they filmed that movie like in like Australia or something like that, like somewhere like where like the studio meddling was not like possible because they were just so far away. And I think that's the same type of deal, which is why I'm kind of cautiously optimistic for Aquaman, because Aquaman was the exact same thing where they just filmed so far away from Warner Brothers so that they just couldn't mess with what they were trying to do.
And James Wan is on a bit of a roll at the minute too.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder if they just need to all right, let's just film this Star Wars movie in Siberia, and we'll see you guys in about 8 months. Let us know what you have then. And then like someone just comes back with, hey, this is what I have, and they're like, oh, this looks fun. All right, let's make this. All right, boom, $3 million, perfect.
Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds like a foolproof plan. I mean, if you go back and look at even Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan movie coming out because apparently Stephen Daldry. Now I know the Obi-Wan movie. The breaks are on that movie now. It's a lot less aggressive, but Stephen Daldry was attached to that, and he directed the likes of Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close, Billy Elliot, The Reader, The Hours.
Yeah,
I mean these are pretty seasoned directors they have, but now it's like. They don't know what they're doing, and they have to know what they're doing. The time isn't their friend at the minute, and maybe what we're saying, in regards to just give them all the space they need. That's probably a start. I'd say that's probably a good place to start. Like the way they're giving James Wan all this power. They gave who directed Wonder Woman was a female director.
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, they just gave her everything and. They kind of need to have that same template for Star Wars, I think. But I'm going to be really, really honest. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. That's the problem. It's this massive corporate. It's this massive corporate product where it's if it doesn't do well at the box office, the stock drops immediately on Monday, the Monday following. It's just I honestly do not envy anyone who wants to take these movies. It's just such a hard thing, and I think Marvel. I think it's really hard to compare this to Marvel because Marvel, it's we've established it's just its own thing, but they just really took their time. They figured things out. They were almost crawling at the beginning with movies like Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. Like it was just these contained movies that they could just kind of figure it out. And I mean, even they've retconned like a few things from previous movies. I mean, Edward Norton isn't the Incredible Hulk anymore, But they just kind of they just slowly figured it out, and I think Ultron was that tipping point for them where they were like, all right, we can't just try to create all these weird interconnected movies. We need to just do more kind of standalone stories with the end credit scenes acting as like the connective tissue sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no end credit scenes or anything like that. That's why it's so hard to compare this Marvel to Star Wars. But it's like you just need to just it's hard. It's simplistic to say like, oh, just let the directors do their thing. But like you just need someone who is just going to be able to just go in and make a movie and then just give it to Disney higher ups and say, all right, this is it, and then they're like, all right, perfect, let's move on. And
I'd agree. Like the difference is that Star Wars isn't a movie franchise; it's a business.
Yeah.
Well, Disney is a business, and the difference there is that they need to. There's so many there's so many different factors where they have to look at what's going on in the current world, and they have to see what kind of politics they have to pump into the film. They have to see what actors to pump in. They have to see what stars pull in the most money. It's just, and that's the same when I look at something like Venom. It's like that could tank as well because I feel as if that's kind of rushing things as well, the way DC did it, and the way Star Wars did it as well. Like you were saying, Marvel figured it all out very slowly, and that's how you do it. You do it one movie at a time, building up these characters.
Yeah.
But it's like they made it because it's like The Force Awakens is almost like the Avengers type scale. They
right.
got an ensemble cast, and then The Last Jedi as well is another huge movie. But then again, it's like it kind of contradicts itself if you want to go more the Avengers route because that's not the way Star Wars was done in the past.
Right.
So
yeah, here's the thing. What do you want out of what's like your ideal standalone or just like what is your just ideal Star Wars movie moving forward that you think would really work? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
at like right now after Solo.
Yeah. What's the ideal story that you want to see? Is it something just completely different, or is it something tied to what we've seen before, or what are you really hoping for moving forward?
It's actually it's a simple question, but it's a good one. I think creatively, I would actually like to see. Now, you probably really just badly disagree with me here, but I'd actually like to see an Obi-Wan movie because Ewan McGregor is the only actor who's sort of not dead either in real life or in the movies, and he's sort of waiting on the sidelines, and he's a Jedi. He pulls in a lot of money. As soon as you start swinging a lightsaber around in a trailer, you will get kids flocking to see that movie. And I'm not just saying that because it pulls in the numbers, but I think that's the correct place to start all these peripheral movies.
Yeah,
it's the Star Wars lore.
It's weird, like in some instances, Star Wars is like, oh, we're not like we're gonna cater to the fans, but then sometimes they're not because in 3 of their 4 movies, we've hardly seen a lightsaber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even in The Last Jedi, like, no one hit a lightsaber into another lightsaber at all during that movie.
And the guy who was the best ever, sorry to cut you off, but I had to fucking say this. The guy who was the best ever, Luke Skywalker, as soon as he gets his moment to shine, guess what? He's a hologram. He's not real.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's just Solo doesn't really call for lightsabers, but like you didn't have lightsabers in that. You had Vader at the end of Rogue One with his lightsaber, and you didn't have any other Jedi. Like we haven't really, and then even in The Force Awakens, it was just like a small little battle in the woods between Kylo and Rey. I mean, I'm not saying you just go full on lightsaber schlock, although that would be probably really, really fun in some ways, but like. It's just kind of just go back to from the story beats, just kind of not even story beats, just like elements, just like pepper in those fun little nuggets that'll get people going. Then you can tell your story that you want to tell, I can imagine. Like it's kind of cynical to say, but I think a lot of people would have liked the Last Jedi a little more if it had a little more just like little elements of Star Wars that we've known before. Just like a lot of lightsaber battles, or maybe something like that. I don't know. Just I'm kind of spitballing at this point because I have no clue what I think should be work best for this.
Yeah, I mean, like I know the way Solo is more of a kind of, it's basically a cowboy western set in space, and it's like how the hell are you gonna inject lightsabers into that? Well, it's not a lightsaber movie. It's a Han Solo movie.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying about Obi-Wan. It's like with Obi-Wan, and now the fact that they're planning on bringing Darth Maul back, he was a badass character, and I know the fact that he was in Solo, that isn't a kind of. I read that he was actually, his character came back in the books, apparently in the graphic novels.
Yeah, he came back in one of the animated things, one of the animated shows on TV too, but
Clone Wars or Rebels or
one of those.
Forces of Destiny. I don't want to. I think that could be another interesting dynamic, because the only good thing about the Phantom Menace, to me at least, was that last fight scene with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul.
Yeah, I think
that was like such a good, brilliantly choreographed scene. If they could get more of that type of stuff in the current lore, I could actually get behind it with a bit more excitement.
Yeah, these movies, they need that kind of like those jaw-dropping moments in them. And I think, The Phantom Menace is not necessarily the greatest movie, but like that whole scene it makes your mouth drop. Like it's incredible. And then I guess with The Last Jedi you have maybe just the Praetorian Guard fight, or I don't know how you say those, just like the weird room where they're fighting all the weird red people. Just like that was amazing. It's amazing, and it's stuff like that, like those movie moments that just like make your spine tingle and just like are just like amazing, and you're like, I can't believe this came to life. Where like I didn't see any of that in Solo, got little spurts of that in Last Jedi, even though I kind of like that movie. It's they need a magic that I don't know if they're not willing to go for, or maybe Star Wars is one of those things where it's this massive, expansive universe, but you can only tell a few stories in it. I don't really know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like it's partly one of the reasons why Solo was just so dull and dour, and it was just kind of bland. And what did you think of the scene where he actually got his last name?
Oh no! Oh no! That I cringed so hard. It was. I think. I'm not a screenwriter, but I think I could have came up with a better idea for how to get his name, other than, oh, you don't have any people. You're here. You're here alone. Your name is Solo. Check that off the box. Check.
Yeah. It's because I sat in the cinema laughing, like everybody just kind of looked at each other and just, oh my god, jeez.
That's really, really bad. I was so shocked that they went there.
And not just because it was a lazy way to do it, but it kind of diminishes all the meaning behind his fucking last name now.
Yeah,
it's not like, look at someone like Skywalker or Obi-Wan, or their names are kind of almost spiritual. It's kind of almost related to who they are, who their characters are.
Yeah.
Now it's just like he just got his name as an excuse to escape. It's like, oh my god.
I think it's one of those things where we all kind of like, this is kind of why I really dislike prequels. Like, we all kind of say like, oh, it'd be so cool to explore this character more and things like that. But it's sometimes like it's better off just to leave things like unanswered.
Yeah,
kind of.
Totally.
I kind of like Prometheus, but that the entire prequel like that and Alien Covenant, like no one really wants. No, like I don't need 2 movies to see how we got to like a xenomorph. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need, like, it's just stuff. There's some things that are better left, like, unanswered or you just don't need it, you know?
This is weird because me and you are kind of very similar. Because I like Prometheus as well, and I understand people's kind of hatred towards Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I know there's a lot of stupid shit. Like a lot of the kind of plot threads kind of rely on someone doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And they're meant to be, genius level, astronauts and spaceship people.
No, let me. What's this thing? I'm gonna put my face in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go on this planet and not wear any protective gear over my face. It's like, what? It's such a stupid kind of excuse to make a plot. But even though I would agree, where if you're gonna make an origin story, you kind of have to expect these kind of problems with these natural problems that are attached to origin stories, where we know where it's going to end up, so we kind of have to make things a little bit more, a little different, and just make it a bit more clever.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen with Star Wars, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just we know the beginning. Maybe we don't know the beginning, but we know where everything is leading up to. So you just have to make the ride as fun as possible, or else it's just not really worth it. And I just don't like. I didn't feel that with Solo at all. I just kind of watched it. Like, again, I just kind of watched it, and then that was it. And then I moved on with my life and saw movies that were a lot better than it. It's just, I don't know. I really do not know.
That's the thing. I mean, I know we said it earlier, but to me, Solo, it wasn't, quote unquote, nothing movie to me. But I actually I didn't hate the movie. I know we're really punching below the belt here with Solo, but I think the movie at least had a lot of heart. There was a bit of heart behind it. I liked the way it showed how he.
Yeah, I agree.
Met Chewie. There were parts where it kind of did make me kind of smile.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate the movie either. It's fine. I think it's a good cable watch, maybe, if you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like we should probably all expect more from these movies, or just movies in general, But yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Do you have much else to say?
I think that I was going to talk about Emilia Clarke in Solo.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, because she was she kind of got a lot of, not on the same level as Kelly Marie Tran, but I saw a lot of people unhappy with her performance because apparently, she's not the most beloved actress because people say she can't act for shit. But I really didn't mind her. But the thing that frustrated me about Solo was that when Han Solo got back to her character, I think her name was Kira or.
Yeah, it's QI''RA, something weird.
Yeah. Well, however, we had the same problem last podcast as well with pronouncing names.
That's just gonna be a running theme throughout all of these.
Yeah, we should make a spin-off podcast just trying to that prominent. But Emilia Clarke's character, I thought she was going to be kind of this kind of tool. This kind of plot tool for Han Solo, where it would kind of explain Han Solo's kind of cynical outlook towards romance, because there were moments in the film, particularly the second half of the film, where they got back together, and I thought, oh, this is going to be, they're going to have a fight now or something. I thought they were going to split up, and they weren't. She was going to be behind. She was sort of going to be behind the whole kind of evil plot of the film, and partly she kind of was, but I thought that was a golden opportunity for them to kind of really show where Han Solo kind of developed this kind of bad boy rebellious outlook even more, like tenfold, because now I know they had sequels planned and it was probably going to be more developed, but I just didn't really get that. And there were, now don't get me wrong, I liked Alden. Here we go again. Alden Ehrenreich's performance.
There you go.
Although I liked his performance, there were parts of Solo where it was kind of like, I kept asking myself, would Harrison Ford Solo actually say something like, would he say something like that?
Yeah.
And it was kind of making me butt heads against the movie, because there was one part toward the end where Emilia Clarke's character looked at him and said something like, the password is smile. And I thought that Solo was going to say something really kind of, kind of cynical, like the way he usually is, like, oh, shut up or something, get a room, or the way he told Leia, right. I know, when she said I love you.
You're right.
In The Empire Strikes Back. But that was the one thing about Solo that kind of had my nose knocked out of joint. I was like, yeah, it does kind of feel like a Han Solo movie, but then again, it kind of doesn't.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I don't know. I'm just kind of. I don't want to say I'm done with Star Wars, because I think there's just so many cool things you could do with this. But I think I'm in the boat where it just kind of has to just win my attention back, I guess, because I can't deal with another. Oh, this is the worst thing ever. This movie hates conservatives. This movie hates liberals, or this movie didn't do what I wanted, or this movie didn't do what I wanted, and now let's remake The Last Jedi, and it's just I'm tired. I'm tired, Steve. I'm tired.
So I know what you're saying. It's exhausting living in this whole kind of PC culture now, and I think that the whole kind of, like, when you look at someone like Donald Glover, I think Donald Glover was actually really good in Solo.
I do too.
I thought he was great. Like, I know a lot of people said that he was just doing an impersonation of the previous line. I don't know the name of that actor, actually.
Oh, I'm blanking too. Oh, it's gonna bother me. Billy D. Williams. There we go. Oh, we were never gonna hear the end of that if we couldn't have gotten that.
Yeah, it was gonna be. People were saying it was a Williams impersonation, but I really disagree. I thought Donald Glover did brilliant. Like, I thought he was. I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, wow, like, he really got this character down.
Yeah,
I don't mind the whole kind of. I know people were very unhappy with the whole kind of that robot's name, L337 or something.
Yeah,
I think that's the robot's name, and that was one part of the movie that didn't hit me at all, because we don't know this robot, we don't know this character. We're just told that they're kind of in this quasi romantic relationship, and then the robot gets killed or destroyed.
Yeah, it's just there's just nothing to it. Yeah,
but
I don't know. I think on that note, I think that about wraps it up for what we have to say. It's Star Wars it's in a tough spot, but I think even though we've both kind of said our piece, I think we really hope that it figures it out. Something happens here, but I don't know. We'll see. So, Steve, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it. And
no worries. Thanks for inviting me back again. I thought you were never ever going to invite me back again. It was a good sign when I saw your email.
Nice.
They weren't doing the second.
And yeah, that about does it for us. Thank you everybody for listening. And until next time, thank you.